Welcome to Mental Health Matters. It's Dr. Audrey Tang here. My co-host is Judith Crosier, and this is the show where we take a deep dive into all things mental health and well-being, helping you to live your best life. We're talking about curiosity on today's show, and we have got Melinda Mulcahy. She's the founder of Curious You, and she's going to be sharing her own lived experience where she discovered the huge power of curiosity. We're also going to revisit one of our favourite guest expert interviews with Dr Gus Chaves, who talks about the importance of taking a curious and patient-centred approach to well-being. Let's head over to the main studio. Pleasure to meet you, Melinda. Please tell us about your career journey, because you've done so many incredible things, and I love your point about focusing on being curious.
Yeah, thank you for having me, by the way, and I'm so excited to get tucked into curiosity today. I really, at the time, was struggling with my health, both mentally and physically, more so my brain health. I was presenting with what seemed like Alzheimer's at the time. So there were lots of things going on in my life. For instance, we had just built a property in Italy, and in a mafia attack, the builder burnt it down. Then we were trying to move house, and a week before we were due to move house, the guy, we realized, didn't have a mortgage in place. So that fell through, and we had time pressures because we had to get the kids into catchment, blah, blah, blah. So there was a lot of pressure at the time. I was drinking excessively, you could say. And as a result, my mental health was really spiraling out of control in terms of not being able to punch through, not just in my head, but also articulating into speech. So, for instance, I would really struggle to even formulate sentences in my head. And then when I was trying to articulate, I was stuttering and really, really struggling. So I took myself up to the doctor, and the doctor said in the 10 minutes to diagnose what is essentially a lifetime of complexity, take antidepressants. And I was adamant that it wasn't depression. And I know what depression is. I've had numerous types of depression throughout my journey, but it definitely wasn't that. So I felt none the wiser, to be honest. I ended up, going to Google and really putting in my details about what I was suffering from. And it turns out I had brain fog. So that was really the very first curiosity step. So it was like, okay, what's wrong with me? Now, I don't teach people how to say it that way now, but it did the job. And then the next question was, okay, so if I've got brain fog, how can I improve this situation? Now, that led me on an incredible journey of discovery. I then was able to get my mental health and physical health back under control. My neurological function significantly improved immediately because I took immediate steps. I took full responsibility and control of my health. And that really, what happened was I ended up becoming quite enlightened. In fact, I was reading lots and lots of books. And that was something that I'd never really done before, was read, because I'm actually severely dyslexic. So I would use that as a barrier, if you like. But when I realized what dyslexia is, again, my curiosity went down the route of, okay, what is dyslexia? Obviously, I've got something wrong with my brain. How can I improve it? And again, I started to read books, and that just improved my dyslexia. And so, cut a long story short, that was a period of about sort of 5 or more years. I was also trying to disprove the concept of law of attraction, which was fun, scientifically. So I tend to look at things more scientifically, even though I don't have a university degree. I would call myself, if anything, a researcher. I tend to research a lot. And so on that path of becoming quite enlightened, the universe gave me a bit of a challenge in the form of cancer. So I
Oh,
took myself off to the doctor, told them exactly where they needed to test because I knew I had it. I was, having experiences where I was being told by my higher self what was going on. So when I talk about that, I talk about essentially the higher self being just this constant voice in my head that was saying cancer, 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 and I knew exactly where it was. And as a result of that, 8 months later, yes, I was diagnosed. And so that was cervical cancer. Everything had to be taken out. I was kind of like, I had 3 weeks to come to terms with it. In that time, my mother-in-law died. I had to talk to my parents about the Alzheimer's because mum was showing significant signs. So there was quite a lot going on then. In my second challenge, or I call it a divine storm. The first one was a perfect storm. The second one was a divine storm. But the cancer was really nothing compared to the menopause, the downfall of menopause and all of that. So that was horrific. Every single time I came up against another issue, another problem. And it wasn't just the sweats. I mean, the sweats were just small fry compared to what I was dealing with mentally. I'd lost the ability to even feel, if you like. It was kind of like this very odd, no emotion. And in addition to that, I had called time on my relationship with my husband of over 26 years. So in that time, I remember my friend said to me, well, Melinda, like all my friends were freaking out. I was the first to go through menopause. I was 48 years of age, and they were watching me go downhill rapidly. I'd lost something in that space of about sort of 5 years or so. I'd lost about 3 dress sizes because I was a size 16 when I started the journey. And then when I went through the menopause, I lost another 2 dress sizes. So I ended up getting down to about a size 6, which was, people were sort of looking at me and they were sort of saying, don't lose any more weight, you're becoming anorexic. Well, it was not something that I chose, but the way I controlled the mental sort of anxiety, well, the constant anxiety essentially, was through reducing my sugars. So again, every time something came up, I go, okay, what is this? I've got anxiety. How can I deal with it? Okay, I'll deal with it with diet, which I did. I read a lot of studies about psychology. Okay, what are the questions to ask, which were interesting. And when my friend said to me, how are you coping? How are you dealing with this? And I said, I don't know. I'm just curious. Like when something comes up, I ask questions about it. I find out about it and I deal with it. And I thought to myself, wow, isn't this interesting? Because when the doctor diagnosed me, he said I had a very strange reaction. And the reaction was that, after about sort of 4 times, he sort of said to me, Melinda, you got cancer. And he held my hand and he said, you can cry now. And I said, I don't want to cry. I want to know what you can do and what I can do to improve my odds of survival. Now, that was quite significant because it wasn't a sort of poor me. It was like, okay, I've got this. Let's get to, this is another problem to solve. I'm off. I've got to find the solution. And we work together. But that really then made me think, well, if I'm asking all these questions all the time, because I'd really been studying quite a lot about happiness and positive psychology, and I was thinking to myself, hang on a minute, like you can't be happy in that situation. You can't be grateful in that situation. These are all coping mechanisms that we're being taught are really helpful. But when it comes to the crunch, they're not helpful. In fact, I would argue that they're quite the opposite. So what happened was I thought, well, what did I do? I pulled it apart. And that question, okay, what have I got is the first question. We need to identify what's going on. But the second question is more and more and more important. And that is, how can I improve this situation? And that's the one question I continually tell people to just continually ask. But also, it's the one question I relied on to get me here today. And what's interesting is that I started to pull that question apart and work out why that was so powerful. And that led me to find out all about curiosity. I was kind of like I thought I was probably one of the only people who was kind of studying it. Turns out then, as I was looking into curiosity, I then realized that there were a couple of psychologists, neuroscientists around the world, maybe 3, and that was it. But I come from a completely different point of view. Because I think what serves me well is not having that bias of science, but my bias is, okay, where does this sit in amongst our problems, mental health issues, the human condition, and how we can resolve it. So I hope that's giving you a little bit of information about what I do.
It's incredible, absolutely incredible, Melinda. We're going to hold that thought right there, and we're going to keep you with us, and we're going to go on to talk about your Curious You program, because you're an award-winning speaker, you have traveled the world, you give consultations, so we're going to be back with you right after this.
Hi, this is Clara Capano, your host for Women Winning Their Way, where we talk about how you can create success all on your terms. Join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Limelight Network here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. We have got Melinda Mulcahy with us, and she is the founder of Curious You. She's an award-winning speaker. She's a consultant. She's traveled the world talking about the importance of curiosity. She's just shared her personal journey, professional and personal, to where she is now. Now, Melinda, why is curiosity, you've mentioned it a little bit in your own journey, but why is it so important to both healing and then thriving?
Yeah, great question. It is the foundation, actually. It's the very start. It's the very beginning. And without the questions that you're asking, then you really will struggle to be able to move forward very quickly. So the question is always, how can I improve this? And that works incredibly well, simply because when you ask a curiosity question, it has three parts. What you want to be asking is essentially something that's going to improve. And the reason why improve is so important is because to the brain loves to improve. It really does. And it responds incredibly well. Not just the brain, I'm talking about the whole neurological system, because you want to get your neurological system on your side. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean the part of your nervous system that enables you to move forward as opposed to keeping you stuck. And what happens in any sort of negative health situation is that we tend to be in fear. In fact, we're in fear majority of the time. And that's terrible, because that's what's eating us alive, literally. It's corroding our nervous system. And the whole point of asking, how can I improve this, is that it switches on that part of your body and all those wonderful neurochemicals that serve you, that support you, that nurture you, that help you grow, and that also help you to heal, which is why you don't just get the healing, you get the thriving as well when it comes to improvement.
Would you mind giving us an overview of how this 7-step Curious system works, please?
Yeah, sure. So the very first step is to become aware, and I think that is vitally important. Now, by the way, as I started to create this system, I had no idea that it was going to spell curious. So it does spell curious. So C is to become conscious, so consciously aware. And within that, I use various different steps to be able to make sure that you're understanding what's going on, you're becoming aware, and you're leading with conscious awareness. The U stands for understand. Now, that's just not about understanding what's going on within a situation immediately, but I can take people down into, okay, really, let's understand the feelings that you're feeling, your thoughts, your thinking, and so forth, and what's creating that. Now, by the way, if you're in any mental difficulty, that's not something that I choose to do with my clients. I do believe that can cause more stress. What I want to do is get people in forward motion as quickly as possible. So I would only suggest we go down into more learning about, what's really causing this situation when they're much more in a better sort of mental way, if you like. The next is to understand the reality of a situation. So I'm talking about outside of you. So understand is more about inside you, and the reality of a situation is everything else. And then you start to pair up what's really going on. And sometimes you'll find that it may not even marry up. You know, what's going on within you may not marry up with the reality of a situation outside of you. So that can be very interesting for my clients. The next step is I, which stands for intention. And this is key because it allows us to move forward very, very quickly. And I want people to understand that they need to focus on improvement. Some people find that quite grating. I don't know why, because I think it's very positive and the brain responds very well to improvement. But essentially, intention with the intention of improvement is key. Rather than, so what we tend to look at is what we don't want. I start saying to people, okay, what do you want instead? And really flipping that whole mental construct for clients. The O is then your objective. So once you have an intention and it's positive, you want to then start to moving towards some kind of goal. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a big goal, but it's like, okay, so if you want to improve, what is it exactly that you're kind of thinking would really be the ultimate? And then start moving towards that. So that's O for objective. And then U is for unity. And here we really work on bridging the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and using curiosity, which bridges that gap and enables you to be able to sort of bridge the unknown. Because essentially what's going on is that the brain is very, very scared. It doesn't like uncertainty. But when you use curiosity, it actually knocks out uncertainty and enables you to move forward and bridge that gap with confidence and clarity. Essentially, that's what we want to be getting to. And then the S is for sovereignty. And here really I talk about, okay, now you've come this far, what are you learning? And challenge yourself. Okay, so this is the highest level. I believe that this is much higher than even self-actualization on Maslow's scale, his hierarchy of needs, because it's not just self-actualization, which is really just you moving up the scale towards understanding. But what you want to do is you want to then challenge yourself more. You want to be able to move beyond understanding. You've got that under your belt now, but you really want to sort of go into challenging yourself. So when you look at sort of really highly effective individuals and achievers, like someone like Sarah Blakely, she's continually looking for the next big challenge. And that is sovereignty. And that, by the way, is, I believe, the most profound, the highest level of self-mastery.
And that's a very interesting way of taking people through a good coaching acronym, actually. It's a great way of sort of self-coaching. But this can lead to other question marks, I guess, more curiosity here. Are there drawbacks to curiosity? Because one thing I can think of is if you're doing this for yourself, you have your own narrative and you can, I'm very good at lying to myself. So what happens then when you're asking those questions and then you're finding an answer that kind of suits the narrative you don't want to change? What drawbacks might there be that we need to be aware of?
Well, the very first question you might want to ask when you're in that situation, as you've just described, is, okay, what is the gift in this? What is the gift in me lying to myself? Because there's always a gift. That's the key. And I find that really interesting, where a lot of people are, they're fighting for their own limitations. And these are what I call them mind traps. The mind traps us into believing certain things, but we can steer very quickly out of those mind traps and through using curiosity. So it's always you're using curiosity in a way to move forward, rather than, as I say, fighting for your own limitations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, very much, because it is one of the questions you ask clients. It is, how are you benefiting in this particular way? Yeah, I like that.
Do you have any simple 2-minute exercises that you could kind of talk us through in order to practice being curious?
Well, I think probably I find the best thing to do is just go out in nature. By the way, curiosity enables you to become present. So if you are suffering from any kind of stress, take yourself out for a walk. And a really great exercise is to list or find at least 10 new things that you've never discovered before. Now that triggers your curiosity. So if I go out for a walk, I'll say, okay, what are 10 new things that I've never noticed before? You could do it in your hometown. You could do it, close to where you are. You could take a different route to work and discover things that way. And I find that to be a really fun exercise that gets people really motivated very quickly.
That's a nice one.
Very nice, very nice. I
Thank
like that.
you. Thank you so much. Where can we find out more about your service?
CuriousYou.com. I'm also actually launching a new app for manifestation, in fact. So I'm in the process of launching that. You can find me either way, CuriousYou.com or manifestationtracker.com. That's a really interesting concept all on its own. So I'm very excited to jump into that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Melinda. That's been a really interesting conversation. We are going to head over to Business Boost now. In today's Business Boost, I wanted to pick up on something our guest has said about curiosity. The way I like to look at this when I'm working with clients when it comes to thriving is that if you are stuck here, you are actually 2 steps away from happiness. Because if you take the situation of being in a bad relationship, it might be a bad relationship at work, or it might be an intimate relationship, but you're here. You have to jump to here before you can get to the happiness, the potential for happiness. So somebody who isn't in that situation, maybe they don't have a job or they aren't in that relationship, they're already here. Their potential for the positive is just 1 step. Whereas when we're stuck in a bad situation, it's 2 steps. However, our guest is absolutely right when she says it's really difficult to look on the bright side when we're feeling really, really down. And curiosity, according to positive psychology, is used very well to bridge that gap. Instead of saying, right, just be happy or be grateful, what you can ask is why and how and what. And by asking those questions, we can learn something about ourselves or we can learn something about the situation. So when we're here, we can ask ourselves, well, what am I gaining from staying here? What are my options? What would I like to happen? Just asking those questions can at least begin to elevate our mood a little bit, which might in turn motivate us to do something about it. And another thing that we can do to build our sense of curiosity, and this is again something relating to what our guest has said, is when you go out in nature, and you can try the 10 things. Another exercise I'd like to give you is known as the wonder walk. Now, we all know the mindfulness walk. The mindfulness walk is where you go out and you feel the wind on your face, and then you listen to the sounds of the trees rustling. You use all the senses and you get into the moment and you ground yourself that way. I really like the wonder walk as well. And the wonder walk is stopping physically and thinking about something that gives you a sense of joy, that gives you a sense of awe, that gives you a sense of inspiration, that gives you a sense of surprise and gives you a sense of peace. So try that next time you're out on your walk as well, and you might find all kinds of things that you never realized before, and when you come home you may well have elevated your mood enough to be able to take the first step to start moving from here and climb up to here. And now let's head over to our resident expert, Linzi Harrison of Linzi Loves to Organise, to give us her tips on decluttering.
Today I'm going to talk to you about organising your wardrobe. So by having an organised wardrobe, it saves you time and it saves you money and it saves you stress. So time, by having lots of things crammed into your wardrobe, lots shoved in, or perhaps you have a floor drobe where you've got lots of clothes just hanging around on the floor, or even a door drobe where things are hanging on the door. I think lots of people can relate to that. It saves you lots of time by being able to find the actual item of clothing that you want. The other thing is money. So because you can't find the items, lots of people tend to go out and buy another outfit. So perhaps you've got a duplicate. And then stress. So this is something I firmly believe, a tidy house, a tidy mind. So if you've got lots of clothes hanging around and you can't find what you want, I think that's really overwhelming. You don't really know where to start, you don't really know where to put your things and where to find them. So it's really important and much better for you to have an organised wardrobe. So I'm going to tell you how to do it today. So first of all, I would suggest you make sure you've got enough time to do it. So, and be realistic. So if you're just going to have, I don't know, maybe an hour, then just take a small section of your wardrobe, maybe just the long hanging bit, or tackle a couple of drawers. If you've got lots of time and you want to do it all, then crack on, that's great. So also make sure you've got some space. So have your bed clear so that you can actually categorise as you go. So you're going to start off by taking everything out of your wardrobe. So take all the hanging stuff, and as you go, have a look at things and decide if you want to keep it, if you actually wear it, and if you want to sell it or donate it to get rid of it, make your separate piles. So keep all of your selling stuff together, make a bag for charity, and the things that you're keeping, try and categorise as you go. So put all your trousers together or your dresses together, because it will save you time when you come to putting them away. So the other thing I would say is when you're thinking about the hanging, have a think about the type of hangers you're wearing. So I just wanted to show you these today and the difference it makes. Now these wooden hangers are really nice to look at, but actually look how chunky they are. They're really thick. These ones here are velvet slimline hangers. So they are much thinner, you can see in comparison. So you're going to get much more in your wardrobe by using these hangers. And also with the velvet hangers, your items do stay put on there, they don't fall off, whereas these things slide off. And this also keeps your stuff in great shape as well. So I definitely recommend getting the velvet hangers. I'll come back to that in a moment. Oops. Okay, so once you've got everything out of your wardrobe, give it a quick clean, because it's a good opportunity to do that. And then you're going to decide what you're going to keep and where to put everything. So obviously your long dresses and things like that will go into the long section. Not everyone does have long sections, so I have got a tip, which actually one of my followers gave me. So going back to the hangers, I just wanted to show you with a dress. If you get the tab off a can and you pop it over, so this is my long dress, I'm just going to pop it over the hanger, and it has got to be on metal hangers because it's too chunky with the plastic one. And then you can pop this one through like this. So it gives you double hanging. So you can use this to hang your long clothes to make them fit into your wardrobes if you've haven't got long space. So you just hang it so that it doesn't crease as much, and then they're tangled, there we go. So it hangs like that in your wardrobe, so it's still nice and slim, and it doesn't crease as well. The other thing you could use it for is to put, if you were wearing this dress and you wanted to have a cardigan or something that goes with it, you can also pop that on. So when you come to wear your dress, you just take it out and your cardigan and things that go with it are all together. So that's a really handy tip. And also because they are slimline, you get more in your wardrobe. When you're deciding on your clothes what to keep, you really need to think how often you wear them. If you don't wear them, then do you need to keep it? If it's something you haven't worn for years, or maybe it's uncomfortable or it doesn't quite fit, maybe it's time to get rid of it. A good way of seeing what you wear in your wardrobe is, again, with your hangers, is to have all of your hangers, all of your things, if you put them back in the wardrobe, facing the other way. So rather than putting everything in like this, have it like this. And then when you've worn it, you come to put it back in once it's cleaned, you put it back in and you turn the hanger so it's back in this way. That will tell you at the end of the season everything you've worn. The things that are still this way means you haven't worn it. So that's a really good way of seeing what you haven't worn. And then again, maybe it's time to get rid of it. It's a good way to have a look at that. So, okay. Another thing I would say is about seasonal wardrobes. So if you are really don't have a lot of space in your bedroom, which lots of people don't, a really good tip is to have your seasonal wardrobes out. So once summer's over, pack the stuff away, because you're not going to use it for another 6 months or so, potentially longer in Britain. So you can pack it away, and then when it comes to, change of season again, you can swap it round. So I would suggest for this, these are just IKEA bags. They're as cheap as chips. These Parkler bags are £1.75, and they get so much in, and they're so easy to pop under your bed or in the loft or in an ottoman bed. I'll just show you very, very quickly, but they actually go quite deep. So you can see there, you're going to get quite a lot in that bag. So you can categorise everything. You can put, it depends how many clothes you've got. If you've got lots and lots of summer clothes, you might want to put all your summer trousers together, or your vest tops, etc. Again, it depends how much storage space you've got, but you get lots and lots of things in there, and then they can be put away. I would say before you do that, you need to have a good declutter. Don't put things away that you're not going to be wearing next summer, because what's the point of having it? And the other thing is, we've got these really big bags I use a lot also. These are, again, IKEA, but £3, and they're really deep, so you can get really chunky jumpers, and all your winter kind of things would go in there as well. But label the bags as well, so when you come to getting them out, you know exactly what's there.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. Now, we're talking about curiosity as a general topic, and how that can be used to help us improve our lives in general. And I know, and he's one of our favourite guests, one of our guest experts, Dr Gus Chaves, was on the show previously. He talked about taking a person-centred approach and being more curious, and one of the reasons why he did that was because he didn't enjoy the tick box approach of the medical profession. I mean, well, first of all, in your own experience, what are your thoughts about visiting the doctor?
Well, yeah, it can be quite frustrating, and it can be exactly like that. I think as well sometimes, because you have to put on a form what you're going to see the doctor, they might have a preconceived idea about why you're going there, and then think, oh yeah, it's that. Especially if they kind of half know the patient. So it can be frustrating, and I have left the doctor's surgery thinking, that's not what I've got, and it being so frustrated because, you know, you wait for ages for an appointment, and you go, and then you're kind of sent away with tablets, and so it can be very frustrating. And the doctor being able to have the time to actually talk to you, actually ask about you, and get to know a little bit about you in the short time they have, it just makes you feel better.
And this is definitely what one of our experts, Dr Gus Chaves, said. So let's take a look at his interview. Great to have you here, Dr Gus. Thank you for being on Mental Health Matters. You have such broad experience, and we want to hear all about it. Please talk about how you moved from your standard GP practice into hospital clowning, into hypnotherapy.
Well, hospital clown I did during university. So I was doing like my medical degree at the time, and on weekends I would do volunteer as a clown in hospitals. Wow. I did a lot of training to do that. It lasted 3.5 years that I did that. I even became one of the responsibles for the group, because it was a group of clowns, and we were all within the health sector, so that we could go back to the hospital with a different touch.
Wow.
So we were nutritionists, psychologists, everybody within the health sector was part of the group.
Wow.
So we would just kind of transform the way we would see the patients.
Yes.
So we could not be there to help as a health practitioner, but as a clown. And we all discovered the importance of empathy and connection, and how, healing doesn't start with medication or a consultation, but with a gentle hello and an honest, can I come in? Let's play, let's do this.
So true.
And it was transformational for all of us that, were part of the group. The group still goes on.
Wow. This is beautiful, isn't it?
It's incredible. But the first thing I thought was, hang on a minute, you're doing hours and hours and hours of trainee doctor, and in your spare time, which you probably didn't have much of, this is what you were doing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That is fabulous.
Yeah.
And was this
Thank you.
was this in the UK? I have to ask that question, because the reasons I've seen junior doctors in the UK, and that doesn't seem to be an option that's open to them.
No, that was in Brazil. I'm from Brazil, and I did my medical training in Brazil. But there weren't many of us in the group as well, because it's not like from my group, we were like 50 students in my class, medical class.
Yeah.
I was the only one who was, in the project.
Gosh.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
it's just such a great thing, and I'm going to just probe that bit a little bit more, because, and this is my ignorance, what I've seen of hospital clowning is Patch Adams, it's the film with Robin Williams, and he's got the red nose on and the big feet, and he's on a children's ward, like a children's entertainer. It's not quite like that, is it? Not completely, so...
Not really.
Yeah.
Like, we would always go in groups of 3 or 4 as clowns. We would never alone, because the idea is always to triangulate with the people.
Okay.
So we could sometimes not talk or not interact with them, but play talking about them. So that so that they can come in and say, no, I did not say that. Oh, he's talking to us now. So we would start to gain their confidence little by little and just transform the place little by little without imposing anything.
That's amazing. That is so transformational, because we talk about paraphrasing a lot, and this is something that I teach in business, which is if a customer's come and spoken to you, paraphrase back what they've just said just to make sure that they've got it right. But that's still a very formal setting. I love this idea. Let's just talk about them, and then they can then join in. That's inspirational and so simple at the same time.
And it was for people will always say oh, it's so amazing what you're doing. It's so nice, it's such a good vibe, and it's so humble of you. But I was just having fun.
Yeah.
I never focused on, I'm going to tell people what I'm doing so people can see me as a humble... No. I was there because I was genuinely having fun.
So you got something out of it as
I
well?
loved
it. Oh, wow. I can see it in your face.
You can, yeah. And I guess this probably leads on to how that then you went into standard medical training and then changed over to hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did that happen?
It was... it was not as obvious at the beginning, because when you dedicate so much time and efforts to become something, you really want to make it work. So I worked as a GP for 2.5 years after that, and I realized throughout this, time and experience as a GP that most of the consultations I had, that I felt like I fulfilled somebody's needs, that I was actually helping, and they were improving on their blood tests, and everything was getting better, is because I had the time to connect with them. Yeah. But I don't know much about the NHS, but I've heard it's similar. In Brazil, see what I did there, right? Very gently saying that we don't have much time in consultation.
No, that's the problem.
Because they see quality, or the way they analyze if the health system is working well or not is by numbers.
Targets how many people you've seen, not the quality.
I had to see 32 people per day.
Wow. In
an 8-hour shift, that's 15 minutes per consultation. And some people don't have just diabetes. They have diabetes, high blood pressure, and they are overweight. They have a lot of things for me to talk about. But I have to just renew their medication and just focus on what's important. And I could see in their eyes the need for, please listen to me.
Yeah.
And I have so much paperwork to go through, and I wouldn't have the time, and I would feel so frustrated. And whenever I could, and I had some control over my agenda in Brazil, I could call them back, and then could say listen, we have 30 minutes, and we're not going to talk about diabetes today. I want to know what I saw in your eyes. What's happening?
Oh, gosh.
And that would change, that started to change the way I viewed medicine.
Yeah.
And what it meant to heal and wellness. It's not only pills.
Yeah.
And it's not just disease and symptoms. It's so much more. I know holistic became with time a word that people see I I don't know, woo-woo or...
It's a bit of a buzzword.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a word. It became,
important.
got this,
Yeah.
this aspect with time. If you just look it up on the dictionary, it means seen as a whole. So I do always raise the flag up to say holistic is not bad. It's a great thing. We should all be thinking holistically about, treatments, medicine, psychology. Everything should be integrated.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because when I go to the vet with my dog, the first thing is what's he been eating? We never ask, you don't get asked that at the GP.
Yeah.
And that is part of that holistic self. You need to know
Totally.
what's going in there. And if a vet can do it, but the time thing, the time factor, that's a huge part of it. And so now as a practitioner, you've got the time to see people, haven't you, as well?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Now, I do want to know about hypnotherapy because people have an idea in their heads about what it is. It's like stage, isn't it? It's you can click your fingers and then, you become a chicken or something like that. That's what people think it's all about. Is that true?
No. Not hypnotherapy. Not the way I do it. I could do it, but I don't really defend that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ethical. In a way.
I agree. I've always found that really uncomfortable.
I find that there are stage hypnotists, and that's the name that we should give to them.
Yes.
But we should not confuse that with hypnotherapy, because it's hypnosis in both ways. But one uses for entertainment. I respect.
Yes. Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't do it. So I don't even like to show how hypnotherapy works because I don't think it becomes a stage hypnotism situation. And for me, hypnotherapy is the use of hypnosis, which is a tool for healing.
Yes. I mean, your use of the word healing is so powerful and so significant because it is about putting people in the mindset so they can move forward or move through with support, with direction, all of those things, which I can see how that 5-minute consultation would never give you. And worse still, that 5-minute consultation ends up with, and here's your pills again.
Yeah.
I know.
That's not helping. That's not going to change anything internally.
And it's frustrating as well for the patient, which then makes things worse anyway, because they don't feel listened to.
Yeah.
So with that, those are some of the limitations of that conventional way of doing things. Can you tell me a little bit about how hypnotherapy can be used to support, because you do it with weight loss in particular, because I know your background with diabetes, hypertension, all of that,
So because I came from a medical background, I thought if I'm going to, change into something else and become a hypnotherapist, I want to feel that I'm doing the things that I wanted to do as a doctor. So I'm not mental health is increasingly it's really important. We cannot ignore it, and because medicine is very reductionist.
Yes, it is hugely.
And I do not approve that. I like to work with holistic, so I'm always using let's talk about everything. And what I saw from my clients and patients with diabetes is that there was a lot of struggle with weight. There were a lot of struggle like emotional eating and understanding what to eat, what is proper or not to eat. And we didn't have the time to go there because I had to just prescribe the medications, go through the blood tests and all the paperwork involved. And I didn't have the time. So now I have the time and I talk about all those aspects. And with hypnotherapy, which is a very powerful tool to get them into a trance state where they we have access to their subconscious mind, which is where we store everything we live in, everything that we know, we've learned from a conscious, then by repetition becomes something that's stored in the subconscious. And those beliefs that they have, that they're not worthy, they're not going to lose weight, it doesn't work, it's so ingrained in there that it's difficult for them to see another perspective. So the transformation gets it's speeded up with hypnotherapy because we go directly to the subconscious to create new neural pathways.
Oh, wow.
So that the belief comes naturally with time. So we just have to focus on the habits and getting the habits right, I know we're going to get people reversing maybe diabetes, decreasing medication, getting them, decreasing risks of cardiovascular disease. So I think I'm being a better doctor by doing hypnotherapy nowadays. And I focus on weight loss specifically for that, so that I can see benefits in the health aspect as well.
We've reached the last part of the show. What are you going to do this week to get more curious?
I'm definitely going to go for a walk, and really, I tend to do that anyway. When I go out, I look at the hills in the background or the sunset, whatever it might be, and I do love that. I do kind of take time to notice those things, but I'm going to look at different things that maybe haven't noticed before.
Yeah, I like that, and I also like the going on a different pathway.
Yes,
because I find it so easy. It's habitual, isn't it? You just go, I know where I'm going, and that's fine. But the minute you do go somewhere else, you are suddenly more alert, and the brain likes that stimulation. So I think that's what I'm going to try and do this week as well.
Yeah, same here.
Amazing. Let us know in the comments what you're going to do to get a little bit more curiosity into your lives, and have a healthy week.